Your parents were there. Every morning, every dinner, every school play. They drove you to practice. They paid for the dentist. They made sure the fridge was full and the light stayed on. And yet, there was a silence that no amount of noise could fill, a glass wall between you and them that nobody ever named. You could see them, you could reach toward them, and somehow, impossibly, they were not quite there. Not for the things that mattered, not for the thing that was happening inside you. You cried, and they changed the subject. You came home frightened, and they told you to calm down. You showed them something you made with your hands and your whole heart, and they looked, briefly, and looked away. This video is about that silence, that specific, invisible, completely devastating silence of growing up. Seen, but not felt, physically present, emotionally behind glass. And it is about what that silence did to you, what it is still doing to you, and, most importantly, what you can do about it. Your parents were there. Every morning, every dinner, every school play. They drove you to practice. They paid for the dentist. They made sure the fridge was full and the light stayed on. And yet, there was a silence that no amount of noise could fill, a glass wall between you and them that nobody ever named. You could see them, you could reach toward them, and somehow, impossibly, they were not quite there, not for the things that mattered, not for the thing that was happening inside you. You cried, and they changed the subject. You came home frightened, and they told you to calm down. You showed them something you made with your hands and your whole heart, and they looked, briefly, and looked away. This video is about that silence, that specific, invisible, completely devastating silence of growing up seen, but not felt, physically present, emotionally, behind glass. And it is about what that silence did to you, what it is still doing to you, and, most importantly, what you can do about it. Before we go further, if you grew up in a home that looked fine from the outside, but felt lonely on the inside, subscribe right now, hit the bell. This channel exists for precisely this experience, the one that leaves no visible bruises, but shapes everything. And leave a comment right now. 3 words. What did your home feel like as a child? I read every single one. I want you to meet Claire. She is 28 years old. By everything she can point to, her childhood was fine. Her parents were not alcoholics. There was no abuse she can name. Nobody hit her. Nobody screamed. The house was clean. The family went on holidays. And Claire has been in therapy for 3 years, trying to understand why she feels, at the core of herself, like she does not quite exist, like she is a guest in her own life, like she moves through the world holding her breath, waiting for something she cannot name, a warmth that never quite arrives, a mirror that never quite reflects her back. Her therapist asked her once, "When you were sad as a child, what happened?" Claire thought about it for a long time. Then she said, Nothing happened. I just got over it. Myself." That sentence, "I just got over it by myself," contains an entire psychology, a whole architecture of a life built around the absence of something. Not the presence of cruelty, the absence of attunement, the absence of emotional resonance, the absence of being felt. This is childhood, emotional neglect. Not what was done to Claire, what was never done. Let me give you the cleanest definition I know. Childhood emotional neglect happens when your parents fail to notice, validate, and respond to your feelings enough as they raise you. That phrase, enough, matters enormously. This is not about perfection. All parents miss moments. All parents have bad days. Emotional neglect is not a single missed moment. It is a pattern, a consistent, pervasive absence of emotional attunement that becomes
The adult's
weather
calm
of a
presence
child's
helps the
interior
child's
life.
chaotic waves attune to a
Psychologist
steady
Jonas
rhythm.
Webb,
When the
who has
adult is
spent
absent,
decades
the child's
researching
waves
this
return to a
phenomenon,
chaotic state.
calls
This
it the most
illustrates
invisible
co-regulation
form
in
of
emotional
childhood
development.
damage, because it leaves no bruises, no dramatic memories, no single incident to point to. It is defined entirely by what was missing. Here is the glass wall as I understand it. When you are a child, you are constantly generating emotional signals: fear, joy, confusion, longing, pride, shame. These signals are the language by which children learn who they are. They are meant to be received, to be reflected, to be named. When the parent receives those signals and responds with warmth, with words, with presence, the child learns. I exist. My feelings are real. I am knowable. I am worth being known. When the parent does not respond, when they change the subject, minimize the feeling, appear uncomfortable, or simply seem not to notice, the child's emotional signal goes out and comes back empty. And the child draws the only conclusion available. My feelings are not important. I should not feel this way. Something is wrong with me for feeling this at all. That conclusion, installed before the child has language to examine it, is the glass wall. It is not visible, it is not dramatic, but it is there, and it shapes everything that comes after. This is not metaphor. The glass wall has a neurological reality, and understanding it is the first step toward compassion for yourself. The brain of a young child is not yet capable of complex emotional self-regulation. It needs an external regulator, a caregiver, to function as its emotional scaffolding. Neuroscientists call this co-regulation, a process by which a calm, attuned adult helps a child's nervous system learn to manage its own states. When that co-regulation is consistently absent, when the parent is physically present but emotionally elsewhere, something specific happens in the developing brain. The circuits that are supposed to process and integrate emotional experience simply do not develop to their full capacity. The child's brain, in its extraordinary efficiency, learns to wall off the emotional signal altogether. The neurological term for this is emotional suppression. And it is brilliant and catastrophic at the same time. Brilliant because it reduces the child's immediate suffering. Catastrophic because the emotions that were walled off did not disappear. They simply went underground, and they have been there, exerting pressure ever since. Research published in leading journals consistently shows that adults who experience childhood emotional neglect have measurably altered stress response systems, higher baseline cortisol levels, disrupted attachment patterns, and a phenomenon called alexithymia, a neurological difficulty in identifying and describing one's own emotional states. Alexithymia, the inability to read your own feelings. Imagine living inside a house and not knowing which rooms exist. That is what emotional neglect does. It builds a house, the self, and then bricks up some of the rooms. And the person walks around in the remaining rooms, wondering why everything feels so small, so limited, so insufficient, without ever knowing about the rooms they cannot access. Most adults who grew up with emotional neglect report a recurring sense of emptiness. Not sadness exactly, not grief, not depression as they understand it, just an absence, a hollow place at the center of experience that nothing seems to fill for long. This is the direct consequence of walled-off emotions. You cannot feel full when half your feeling apparatus is behind the glass. 1 to 2, counterdependence, the refusal to need. When you grew up receiving the message that your needs were a burden, your nervous system made a very logical adaptation. It stopped generating need signals. As an adult, you may find that you are extraordinarily self-sufficient. You pride yourself on not asking for help. The idea of needing someone feels genuinely threatening, as if the need itself is dangerous, as if expressing it will drive everyone away. This is not strength. This is a wound that learned to look like strength. What forceful. Because the neglect was never explained, because nothing was ever said to name the absence, the child's developing mind looked for an explanation and found the only one available. There is something fundamentally wrong with me. Not with the situation, not with the parent, with me. This becomes, for many adults, what Jonas Webb calls the fatal flaw, the deep, unexamined conviction that at the core of yourself, there is something broken, something that other people, if they ever really saw you, would find unacceptable. Wood for emotional numbness, the disconnected body. The walled-off emotional system does not just hide feelings from your conscious awareness, it also disconnects you from your body. Many survivors of emotional neglect describe a peculiar flatness, going through their days without quite inhabiting them, watching themselves.
A new co-regulation circuit forms.
As if through glass.
The prefrontal cortex as a tuned parent.
Quality,
4 seconds of neurological hope.
Quite there is the direct echo of the original glass wall. Wound 5. Relationships that never quite connect. When you did not learn emotional connection at home, You did not develop the internal vocabulary
The
for
compass
it.
always points
As an
home,
adult,
but
you may
home isn't
find
a
that
place,
intimacy
it's
feels
you.
simultaneously longed for and terrifying. You want closeness, but when someone gets truly close, something in you pulls back. You do not know why. You may describe yourself as not a feelings person. You may be described by others as difficult to reach. What is actually happening is that the emotional channel, the one that was never exercised in childhood, is underdeveloped. It can't be rebuilt, but first,
I am
it
allowed
has
to
be
choose
found.
my own path.
WO'd. The longing that lives in the body. Perhaps the most quietly devastating wound of all. A longing, deep, persistent, sometimes inexplicable, that colors everything. Longing for something that cannot be named, because it was never given a name. The child who grew up behind the glass often becomes the adult who feels most alone, in the middle of the most crowded rooms, who looks at other people being held, and feels something ache, who cannot quite explain why certain films, certain moments of genuine, simple warmth between people, produce a grief that seems disproportionate to the content. But that grief is not disproportionate. It is the precise size of what was missing before the methods. If any one of those 6 wounds just describes something you have been carrying without a name, like this video right now, 2 seconds, sends this to someone who is sitting with that longing tonight and has no words for it yet. Your click is their language. Here is the thing that changes the shape of the entire conversation. And I want you to stay with it before you react. Most parents who create childhoods behind glass did not choose to do so. They were not withholding warmth as a punishment or a manipulation. They were, in most cases, simply unable to provide what they had never received. Emotional attunement is a learned skill. It is passed down, or not passed down, through generations. The parent who could not meet your feelings was very likely a child who was never met either. They did not have the tools. They may not have known the tools existed. This does not erase the wound. Wound is real. The damage is real. The longing is real. Compassion for your parent does not require you to pretend that what was missing was not missing. But understanding it, really understanding the generational transmission of this absence, is the first step toward freedom. Because the moment you understand that the glass wall was not built because of you,
Нравится?
you can begin the slow
Поставь
work of
лайк.
taking it down. Not for your parents, for yourself, for the children you may one day have, for the chain that stops here, with you, if you choose it. The first and most essential practice is one that most people who grew up with emotional neglect have never done. They have never grieved what they did not receive. Grief requires a loss. But in childhood emotional neglect, there was no single moment of loss, just a pervasive absence. How do you grieve something you never had? The practice: write a letter. Not to your parents, not yet, not necessarily ever. To yourself, at 8 years old, describe what you needed, not in abstract, in specific, sensory terms. I needed someone to notice when I was scared. I needed my feelings to be given back to me. With words, I needed to be held in my difficult emotions instead of redirected out of them. The act of writing it down creates the first named account of the absence. And a named absence, unlike an unnamed one, can begin to be processed. You are not being dramatic.
I grant you
not making
permission.
up a word.
It is no longer
You are finally
forbidden.
giving language
Needing
to
is
something that has
dangerous.
had no language for 30 years. Alexithymia, the neurological difficulty in identifying your own
Longing,
emotions,
shown as a warm
is one
amber
of the
light,
most
not
consistent
natural. The same
consequences
light
of
as a
emotional
child's
neglect.
original signal.
And
Full
it means
circle
that simply
revealed.
asking
Warm
yourself,
validation.
"What do I feel?" often produces either a blank or a vague, general answer. Fine. Okay. I do not know. The bypass is to start with the body, not the mind. 3 times a day, set an alarm if you need to. Stop and scan the physical sensations that are present. Not, how do I feel emotionally? Just, where is there
The
tension?
wounds are named loss,
warmth,
betrayal,
heaviness,
fear, disillusionment,
constriction,
regret.
openness. Start with the body's
Through integration,
vocabulary,
healing
because
begins.
the body's
The
vocabulary
detective becomes
survived,
whole.
even when the emotional vocabulary was walled off. Then, and only then, work backward to the emotion, the chest tightness. When did it start? What was happening?
The old
What does
question,
it remind you of?
are we wrong?
This
I
backward
don't know.
mapping
It feels
body
wrong.
to
Then we
feeling,
find a new
to
answer.
meaning is
Together.
how you rebuild the neural pathways that emotional neglect disrupted. Slowly, imperfectly, consistently. One of the most specific adaptations of emotional neglect is what psychologists call counterdependence, the inability to receive. When you grew up getting nothing back for your emotional signals, you stopped sending them, and you stopped expecting to receive anything, either. The counterdependence feels like self-sufficiency. It is experienced as a virtue. In fact, it is a longing so deeply buried that you have forgotten it exists. The practice. Practice small, deliberate acts of receiving. Start with compliments. When someone says something kind about you, do not deflect. Do not minimize. Do not immediately say, "Oh, it was nothing," or "You should see what so-and-so does." Say one word, "Thank you," full stop. Let the warmth exist in the air for 3 seconds before you redirect it. This is harder than it sounds. The discomfort of being seen, really seen, warmly, is real. Activates the old nervous system alarm. Danger. Danger. Do not need this. This warmth is not reliable. Do not let yourself count on it. Notice that alarm. And stay with the warmth anyway. That staying is a new neural pathway being built, one compliment at a time. Inside you, there is still the child who grew up behind the glass, not as a metaphor, as a neurological reality. The neural patterns installed in childhood do not disappear. They live in the subcortical regions of the brain, below language, below reason, and they continue to run the survival programs they were built to run. The practice. When you notice yourself in the grip of one of the 6 wounds, emptiness, counterdependence, the fatal flaw, numbness, disconnection, longing, ask, how old does this feel? Not how old am I? How old does this response feel? Often the answer will be quite young, 8, 6, 4, and then speak to that age, not philosophically, concretely, out loud if you can. I see you. I know you did not get enough of this. I am going to keep showing up. You are not a burden. Your feelings are real. You deserve to be felt. This is not self-indulgence. This is directed neuroplasticity. You are providing, now, the co-regulation that was missing then. The adult part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, is standing in for the attuned parent the child needed and did not have. And the nervous system, remarkably, does not fully distinguish between then and now. A kind, regulated, patient message today begins to rewire the circuits that the neglect originally shaped. The glass wall was built in relationship. It can only be dismantled in relationship. This is not a solo project. What the emotionally neglected child needed, and what the emotionally neglected adult still needs, is a witness. Not a fixer, not an advisor, a witness. Someone who can receive your emotional signals and reflect them back, with warmth and without alarm. This is what a therapist provides. This is what a genuinely attuned friend provides. This is what we are providing for each other in communities built around this kind of honest self-examination. The practice. Identify one person in your life whose presence makes you feel slightly, even slightly, more real, more seen, less behind glass. And tell them one true thing about your inner experience, not your analysis of it, the feeling itself. I have been feeling very empty lately, and I do not know why. I find it hard to let people be kind to me. Something in me is lonely in a way I cannot explain. The act of sending an emotional signal into a safe relational space and waiting to see what comes back is the direct counter to the original wound. It is the thing the child needed, and it is available to you now, even if it was not available then. The most lasting effect of childhood emotional neglect is not the absence of experiences. It is the presence of prohibitions, the invisible rules that were installed before you had the language to examine them. Rules like, your feelings are too much, needing things is dangerous, being sad is a burden to others. Expressing emotion drives people away. Joy is arrogant. Anger is unsafe. The 6th method is the simplest and the longest. Install counter sentences. 8. Repeatedly, with as much specificity and patience as you can bring to bear. These are not affirmations. Affirmations often fail because they are too general, and the nervous system recognizes them as false. Permission sentences are different. They are specific, earned, evidence-based statements about what is actually true. Examples: my sadness is real and it deserves to be felt, not fixed. I am allowed to need things from people. Being in pain does not make me a burden. It makes me human. My longing for warmth is not weakness. It is the most natural thing about me. The glass wall was not built because of me, and it is coming down. Write them down. Say them out loud. Return to them when the old prohibitions fire, and they will fire. The nervous system updates slowly, but it updates. We cannot end without talking about what emotional neglect does when it is not addressed. Because the glass wall does not stay static. Left unexamined, it expands. The adult who grew up behind the glass
question.
often becomes
Are
the
we
parent
wrong?
who creates a
don't know.
childhood
It
behind
feels
glass
wrong.
for their own
Then
children.
we find a new answer.
Not from cruelty,
together.
but from incapacity. Wound transmits. The absence replicates until someone, somewhere in the lineage, stops and does the work. Research consistently shows that unaddressed childhood emotional neglect is one of the strongest predictors of chronic depression, anxiety disorders, relationship dysfunction, and the constellation of symptoms that cluster around what psychologists now call complex PTSD breaks, relational form of trauma response that looks nothing like the dramatic, event-based PTSD most people imagine. But I want to end with something else, something that is also true, that the longing itself, that inexplicable ache for warmth, that the glass child carries into adulthood, is not just a wound. It is also an unspent capacity for connection. The child who needed to be felt and was not grew into an adult with an extraordinarily sensitive emotional receiver. The work is not to reduce your sensitivity. The work is to give it a direction that does not run straight back into the old glass. I want to leave you with this. The glass wall was not built because you were unlovable. It was built because the person who was supposed to feel you had never learned how. That is the truth of what happened. And it is a different truth than the one the child concluded, the one that said, something is wrong with me. Nothing was wrong with you. Something was missing. And what is missing can be mourned. And what is mourned can be metabolized. And what is metabolized can slowly, partially, imperfectly, with patience, and with help, become something other than a wound. Look at your compass. It is not pointing toward the parent who could not see you. It never was. It is pointing toward the part of you that knows even now, even after everything, that you were always worth feeling. The glass is coming down. Stay still. Stay focused. If this video gave language to something you have been carrying without a name for years, like it right now, 2 seconds, it will reach someone tonight who is sitting with the longing and does not know it has a name. Tell me in the comments, did you grow up behind the glass? Which of the 6 wounds did you recognize most clearly in yourself? I read every comment, and your answer tells me what to make next. Subscribe. Every week we go to these places, the ones that had no name, the ones that were too quiet to point to, the ones that shaped everything without ever being dramatic enough to be called trauma, real psychology, for real people who grew up fine, and somehow are not. The next video explores the mirror image. What happens when the glass comes down, and you do not know who you are without it? Stay tuned.